So I received a comment yesterday from a subscriber that is transitioning into the IT field, and they wanted to know my thoughts on cybersecurity. And I love when someone asks me about my thoughts on cybersecurity because although it morphs and changes, transforms over the duration of my career, I still maintain the notion that when you're looking to get into cybersecurity, you should pick one or two disciplines that you are interested in, whether it's software and networking or cloud and software or even now AI and networking or what have you, and you should get a good solid foundation on it. And like any of us who started out in IT, with the exception of a select few of us that were lucky to skip it, we should start with help desk. Help desk allows for us to pretty much see the whole landscape, if you will. When you are on help desk, you get to see Active Directory. There's a lot of security implementations that need to be had with Active Directory. There's some basic physical computer security stuff that you might see. There's operating security stuff that you might see. There's so many different things, networking stuff, cloud stuff. There's so many things that you can see on the help desk that can help you start building your schema of cybersecurity and just security in general. Cybersecurity is such a buzzword nowadays that I'm kind of sort of turned off from it because it's been so, I guess, muddled up with marketing speak that it's losing its essence, and people are grabbing onto this idea that they can just hop into cybersecurity without knowing the fundamentals, the foundations, right? So cybersecurity isn't just hacking, it's a vast field, and in my experience, it's more of a senior level discipline, or at least mid to senior level discipline, right? I think with being in IT for almost 3 years now, I think I'm approaching, as far as my skill set, my responsibilities, I think I'm approaching more of that mid, and I can kind of push my way into the senior level aspects of IT now, and I'm starting to see that cybersecurity is it's so much to it. Right now we have security with regard to AI, such as data storage, how the data is being stored, and where it's being stored. All of these different facets is absolutely vast, right? So that's why I say pick something and drill down into it, and you'll eventually show up in cybersecurity, not by choice, but by force, right? So I give you an example on my background. My background is unique, just like everybody else's background is unique coming into this field nowadays. I started out in engineering, and then I got a psychology degree, right? So I have an engineering degree and I have a psychology degree. And then, at one point I had the idea that I was going to become a clinical psychologist, but somewhere down the line I changed my mind, and eventually I ended up coming back towards the STEM field, right? And so when I got into IT, I started out with IT support / help desk, and I got to see so many things because I was working for an MSP, and each organization or each client that we serviced was completely different from each other. So I got to see different software they used, different networking setups that they used. I got to see, I got to deal with printers. Everybody got to deal with printers, and printers too. I don't know. Printers are such a security risk. They just so ugh. Anyway, I'm not gonna get into all of that. But I got to work with printers, different types of software, different types of networking setups. For example, I got to deal with anything from just a Soho wireless router to Cisco Meraki to Cisco Catalyst, dealing with large campus networks and stuff like that, right? And so now, speaking of large campus networks, one of our clients was a large campus, right? So I got to deal with a lot of the networking stuff with them, and I found myself growing into a network admin position, right? So I started out in an IT support role, and anybody that's been following me from Jump Street on this channel know that I am a networking guy. I love networking. So I got that opportunity to learn and grow more into a more mature network guy by drilling down into that campus network and learning how to redesign it, learning how to secure it, and all of these things. These things were just thrust upon me by nature of working at an MSP. And anybody that works at an MSP knows that it's one of those, I don't know, what is it called? What's the term? Trial by fire or something like that, where they just throw you into the the frying pan and see if you can, throw you into the pool and see if you can swim, right? So that was how I got my foundation set. And the role that I'm currently in now, I'm doing, a lot of systems administration stuff, but the main thing I'm doing is network security engineering, right? So in my MSP role, I actually grew from an IT support, network administrator / network engineer, because I got to the point where I started redesigning networks. I was able to redesign a whole camera network and redesign a whole campus network for data traffic, which is separate from the camera network. For the camera network, I had to really think about security because I had to make sure that no one can just log into our system and look at the feeds, whether it's internal threats or external threats, right? So you can kind of see how, as I was traversing through my career, I was forced to kind of think about how to secure this stuff. It's not something that you just, really, I don't really think that we can separate any discipline or any field that we're in from security unless you work at a large company that is focused on, that has different departments for design, security, and different types of departments, right? But most of us that are just starting out in this field are working for small organizations that require us to pretty much be, a one-man army or a one-woman army, right? When it comes to IT personnel. So a lot of people might get overwhelmed with starting out in IT because they feel like they got to know everything. But you don't have to know everything. You just have to be curious enough to try everything and find what you want to drill down into, and then you can find yourself in that cybersecurity space. That's just how I look at it. So now I'm more in a network security engineer role now because I work with firewalls every day. I build networks. I've been building networks for the last, pretty much for my whole time being in IT, but it got to a point where it's not just about building the networks and being able to reach the internet or being able to reach a subnet across the network. It's about securing that traffic now. You got to make sure that an intended subnet can reach another subnet that it's intended to reach, right? And so we start deploying access rules, network segmentation, all of these things I had to start thinking about because I was asked to secure the network. Oh, I don't want this VLAN to reach that VLAN. That's security stuff, right? And also separating the management VLAN from every other VLAN, right? And so this is something that naturally happens as you grow, right? So you might end up going into, network security like I did, right? Then there's cloud security, which consists of AWS, Azure. You got to secure SaaS applications, right? You got software and application security, right? Secure coding, DevSecOps. There's so many things, right? I remember I was writing a network automation script for Python, and I was thinking, I think I had seen something in the code, right? I was working with AI on it, right? And I was like, wait a minute, this is not secure. Um, I had to, and this is where I'm not a software guy at all whatsoever. But I was writing this simple automation script because I did not want to log into each device one at a time, or each switch one at a time. I was working with AI to write this script that'll allow for me to push some configuration to all of the switches that I wanted to configure. And I saw something in the code. I'm like, this is not secure. So I had to make sure that I worked with AI to secure that code, right? And so that, you know, obviously is something that's huge, right? There's people that are not software engineers, or people that are software engineers that have to think about security when it comes to coding, right? Secure coding. And that's another security thing when it comes to AI. Luckily, I knew better to kind of like say, this doesn't look secure. I should probably, because I learned the basics of this coding stuff, right? Where you shouldn't, for example, hard code your passwords into the script, right? You should have it, I guess, called or, referenced or something from an encrypted file and all this other stuff. It's a lot, right? It's a lot. So when you're getting into cybersecurity, you have to pick something, right? AI and machine learning security, right? There's data poisoning, there's adversarial AI. There's so many different things that you have to consider with regard to all of these topics that I just named, right? So when you're starting out and you say that you want to go into cybersecurity, I'm going to be fair and say this. I don't know what people are seeing as far as marketing, or what they're hearing as far as word of mouth, whether somebody's saying, hey, I'm going to get into cybersecurity. I don't know what they're seeing. I don't know what they're hearing. I don't know what their perspective is. If they think that cybersecurity is this thing where you study it and then you become a cybersecurity engineer, or you study it and you become a cybersecurity analyst. I don't know what they're seeing. I'm only speaking from my perspective, where I look at cybersecurity as the basic things that you need to know and do. There's a lot of, if you go on LinkedIn, or if you even follow some of the some known security experts, they'll tell you that people are just leaving default credentials on network devices. Changing that is cybersecurity. Changing it to something more secure is cybersecurity. There are companies that are not segmenting their networks and deploying access control lists. That's cybersecurity. It's the basics. Port security is cybersecurity. Things like know before and training staff on, whether or not, how to determine whether a email is a phishing email or not. These things are cybersecurity. It's the basic things that people overlook that is cybersecurity, and they look past it because of, I don't know, like marketing speak, buzzwords and stuff like that. But from my perspective, coming up as a network guy and starting out on the help desk and then moving into network administration, system administration, network engineering, network security engineer, it all just naturally, you just start seeing things. You start seeing things. You just go, okay, yeah, let me change this. Or seeing certain services that are enabled one, with default credentials, and two, they're not needed in the first place. So you're just pretty much just opening the doors to bad guys and bad people, and just increasing your attack surface for no reason. And knowing these things, right? Knowing whether you should have, let's say, a syslog port open for whatever reason, or some sort of SNMP port open for some reason, or service open. Like, if you're not using that, you don't need it, then turn it off, or disable it, right? That's cybersecurity, believe it or not, right? It's the simple, fundamental things. Now, are there more advanced things that you might want to get your hands on? I don't really even know what that might look like, because I'm still focused on a lot of the fundamentals and perfecting that, and making sure that networks are set up securely, right? But as far as that's concerned, I think that you shouldn't worry about a lot of the advanced stuff if you're just starting out. You should worry about the fundamentals, right? Again, picking one or two disciplines that you're interested in, and then just getting really good at the fundamentals, and then just taking those fundamentals and getting creative with it, and understanding best practices, learning best practices. There are best practices for a reason. Best practices is cybersecurity. It is, right? From a networking standpoint, there's best practices for network design, best practices for setting up a network, VLANs. I believe in VLANs, separating devices that are used by individuals that you may not know, separating those devices from internal staff, from insecure devices like IoT, etc., etc. These basic things is cybersecurity, right? So, as I said before, cybersecurity is a senior field, right? And you start out at the help desk. You should start out at the help desk so you can see the full landscape. You should be able to take a good look at what's out there, what people are using. Active Directory is huge. When I first started, don't laugh at me, I did not know that Active Directory was so involved with like security stuff, and there's certain ways that you have to do certain things and set up certain things. Because again, I was just more like a network guy. Like I just, but I learned as I went along, and I learned that there are certain things that you should be doing in Active Directory, certain things you shouldn't be doing in Active Directory. There's best practices for setting up the Active Directory environment and all of that stuff, right? And you can see that through the help desk when you are resetting passwords, and you might even see like phishing emails and stuff like that on the help desk, right? From help desk, you can pick something: network administration, systems administration. Systems administration seems like it's a more of a sort of like a catch-all position for you to kind of like really like to learn. It's an opportunity, in my opinion, to learn a little bit more about everything, as opposed to on a deeper level than help desk, right? I wasn't on help desk too long before I started moving into more advanced positions, but system administration gives you an opportunity to learn pretty much everything on a deeper level, and you can go deeper with that if you want. And I think the natural progression is what, systems engineer or something. I don't know. I didn't go that route, but you can do network administration and system administration after help desk, right? And I think you should be some sort of quote unquote engineer of some sort before you naturally progress higher. Because if you're engineering things, configuring, troubleshooting and all that stuff, you should be able to understand what the basic security principles are, right? It shouldn't be a mystery to you by the time you get to cybersecurity, a cybersecurity role, that the basic things need to be done, such as configuring complex secure passwords or credentials on new network devices. That is something that is I really didn't know that people just leave default credentials on things. I didn't know that was a thing until I started seeing it, and I'm just like, wow. And again, network segmentation, that's another thing that you need to get used to, right? But I'm beating a dead horse here when I say that. So after all of that, and I think after being in the field for quite some time, yeah, and you can go into more of a cybersecurity role, whatever that looks like. I don't even know what cybersecurity positions look like, but you can go into more of those roles, right? And then, I guess you've arrived, if you will, right? So how do you gain the knowledge to get here, right? So a lot of people will beat the drum of certifications, and I'm one of those people. And one of the reasons why I beat the drum of certifications is because certifications allow for you to have a guided learning path. There's so much information out there nowadays that I genuinely think that people don't know what to study because there's just so much to choose from. I say start with A plus. Everybody is just like, oh, A plus this, A plus that. Okay, cool. Start with a Google search. Start with something that is very foundational, something that's very basic, that'll give you a guided learning path so that you can see what the landscape is for IT and study, even if you don't want to take the certification, because there's a lot of people that say, oh, I don't want to pay for the certification, and they don't do it. Okay, cool, just study the material. I am a psychologist at heart, and I like to see those credentials. I got my credentials, my certifications on my wall, and that is a positive reinforcement for me. It's a positive reinforcer for me to continue to learn. I like seeing accolades on the wall. I like when people come over and they look at it and go, oh, wow. Hey, it's an ego thing. Fine. Let it be what it be. But if you are the type of person that's just going to say, you know what, let me just study the material and, keep it moving, fine. I think that when people do that, though, from understanding human nature, I think when people don't have to take an exam for something, they're just not going to study all the material. They're probably just going to pick and choose what they want to learn and neglect the rest. Because I know, even though I took the A plus certification exams, my least favorite part was the Windows stuff, the Windows operating system part. Linux was pretty cool. And it's funny because Linux is I used the Linux command line in some of these distros and stuff like that. But Linux was fun. I'm not gonna front. Linux was fun. But I didn't pay much attention to the Windows stuff. Mac was decent because, at the time I was using Mac, but the Windows stuff I just tried to learn the bits and pieces of it as much as I needed to pass the exam. So I can only imagine that, maybe this is just me projecting, but I can only imagine that people who are not actually gonna take the certification exam, they're not really gonna study all that material. They're not. If they don't have to, they're not going to, just by virtue of human nature. So it's up to you. You can just download the CompTIA exam objectives, take a look at it, and then keep it moving if that works for you. Cool. My advice is to get the certification because it gives you that positive reinforcement. You've invested the money in. If you absolutely don't have the money, all right, just study what's on the exam objectives. There's Professor Messer. He has a free course on YouTube. Go ahead and go do that, right? If you want to progress more into the networking side of things and you want to become, like a network security engineer and beyond, I would highly recommend getting the CCNA. Again, if you don't got the money for all of that, just study what's on the CCNA and keep it moving. There's people that do that, or they say they do that. I don't really believe them. I think that when people study that material from the CCNA, by virtue of living in a distraction culture and human nature, and people's attention spans has dipped in general. You can go look it up. I don't think people are actually just looking at the exam objectives and studying it and saying, okay, great, I have enough information now, I'm just gonna go apply for. I don't think people are doing that. I don't know, I could be wrong, but I don't think people are doing that. So with that being said, I would say get the certification. If you don't have the money and you're absolutely ambitious enough to just study the material and keep it moving and do projects, obviously you got to build projects. If you don't got that certification, you need to build projects. You need to put those projects on a portfolio, whether it's like a video platform like YouTube or your own website. You need to do that, because how else are you going to show that you know something? Certification is one maybe indication that you know something. It's a hint. It's a clue that you might know something. Because there's a lot of people that's out there just you know, we ain't even gonna get into that. Having projects is something that's huge. On my resume, what I used to do was put links to my videos on my resume, right? I got a WordPress site, and I recorded a lot of these videos that you see on my YouTube. I uploaded it to YouTube, and I uploaded it to my WordPress website. What's it called? They have this video tier subscription where you can upload your videos to WordPress, and you can link the videos from the WordPress site to the video, to the resume, right? You just grab the link and you just embed it in the PDF, right? That's what I did. It worked for me to demonstrate that I actually know what I'm doing. And that is something that I highly recommend if you choose not to get certifications. If you choose to get certifications, you need some sort of portfolio. I think that's a missing piece. I think that's a huge missing piece, because people are just out here getting these pieces of paper, which is essentially what it looks like, and putting it on a piece of paper, right? You got your resume, which is a piece of paper, and you're referencing other pieces of paper on that piece of paper, and people are just looking at it. The hiring manager is looking at it. Okay, all right, but they don't know if you can do the job. So you need to get some sort of video evidence that you can do the job. Or if you have a blog, fine. But blogs, I don't really think blogs are the greatest, because you can always just kind of like copy and paste from another blog. I think by virtue of human nature, and this is the psychologist in me, we need to have sort of like a parasocial type of thing going on. And I think that's why these video portfolios work well. Now, I think video portfolios work well for me because hiring managers got to see my personality, my shining personality. And I think that's another determining factor. Your soft skills shine through those video portfolios, right? And they can decide whether you're a culture fit and bring you on, and they can teach you what you need to know about the job. If you're teachable, then you can go very far. Having a great personality, though, that's when I say great personality, I don't mean somebody that's charismatic or somebody that likes to joke and all of this stuff. I'm talking about somebody that is personable, that can get along with other people. People that can get along with other people, we're in demand. You can be the most technical person out there, but if you can't get along with other people, you're cooked. You're cooked. I don't care how much you know, how many certifications you have. You need to be able to get along with other people. And that's something that the video portfolios help you with. So if you don't want to do certifications, fine. Do more of the portfolios, right? Study the stuff that's on the exams and put them on the portfolio. Hey, you can also, take Linux certifications. I think there's a Linux Plus certification from CompTIA. I'm not really sure. Obviously, there's AWS. I believe Microsoft has a few certifications. You can take a few firewall certifications. I'm working on studying like FortiGate products, Palo Alto, stuff like that, because I already have experience with WatchGuard and SonicWall, but I need to get into some of the more popular players like Fortinet and Palo Alto, of course. So you can do those certifications. I think 40net has a network security, has a whole bunch of certifications, not just network security, but a whole bunch of certifications that I think the courses are free, right? Also, Professor Messer, he has a bunch of free A plus, Network Plus, and Security Plus. Also, I want to mention, if you don't want to get into networking, right? If you don't want to make that your forte, even as a software developer, if that's what you want to do, take a Network Plus certification course to learn the basics of networking, because software people, they keep blaming the network, right? I've had so many instances where people are working on software or they're configuring something in software and it's not working and they blame the network. You need to be able to tell whether it's your crappy application or it's the network. Stop blaming the network, yo. That's my 2 cents about that. If you do get into networking, you're gonna see what I'm talking about. You got people out here that's going, oh, their crappy application is not working. So rather than try to dig into the application to see if it's the application that they're coding, programming, whatever you want to call it, they blame the network. It's not the network. It's you. Anyway, let me stop now. I'm just being saying all that in jest, by the way. Don't take it personal. And if you do, it is what it is. So you can take a A plus. You can do the CCNA. You can do. I think they have operating systems. Oh, there's like VMware. Are we still even calling it VMware anymore? You can do VMware certifications. You can do cloud certifications. All of these different certifications. Again, if you can't afford it, then just study the material. Put some projects on your resume through a portfolio and all that stuff, and you should be good to go with that. I hope that helps. I'm trying to see if I covered everything. This is a 30-minute long video. It's something that you can listen to as more of a podcast, because I can go on and on, right? I'm just gonna tack this on at the end of this video because somebody asked me to do it. So when you get to a place in your career where you are responsible for making certain decisions about configuration, or you're at least looked to as someone that is a subject matter expert on something that you claim to love so much, you're going to be asked to speak at meetings and on committees and stuff like that, right? Throughout my, pretty much ever since I started in IT, I've been speaking at these things, through the organizations that, I work for. I've been speaking at these things, and it's a really good feeling to be able to talk about something and actually know what you're talking about, right? So I was talking about network security, a network security feature the other day, and just basic AI stuff, right? And it felt good. I can't give you the whole recap per se, but there's something that I've been new about, but it's just kind of like, when you're in these positions, sometimes you just have to get around to really configuring it, understanding the implications behind configuring certain things. And one of the things that I'm working on right now is looking into reputation-based filtering. From what I understand about reputation-based filtering is it filters content that has high-risk reputation scores that obviously if it's a high-risk reputation score, it means that you shouldn't be viewing that site, you shouldn't be getting emails from that site, you shouldn't be getting contact from that IP address or what have you, right? So that's something that I got to speak about, and that is it tends to be a little bit touchy, because who's to say something is high risk or something that's not high risk, right? And I think that all boils down to the database that's being used, right? I'm not going to get into all of that There's the MSISAC that works with CISA, and then there's the fire based off of the firewall, or not router, but the firewall or router gateway that you're using. It might use, a different database, or whichever database it chooses to use, right? Who knows, right? You got to look. A lot of these things you have to kind of like go and look up the knowledge base articles for, because I've found personally, at least on the devices that I work on, it doesn't explicitly say what database it's using unless I missed it, right? So that's something that I was talking about the other day. And this is something that you're going to be called to do when you get to a level that is more subject matter expert. I don't think anybody's an expert, but subject matter expert. When you get to that subject matter expert level where someone's looking to you to explain some of the things that you're doing in your configurations or your implementations of certain features. And this is why I say that cybersecurity is like, it's a senior level, right? I think it could be mid-level, but it's senior. I think it's more senior level, because there's a lot of leadership. And I'm not saying that I'm a leader by any means, but I'm seeing what's coming down. I'm seeing where my career is headed, where if I can speak, and if I can speak to and about the things that I know in an intelligent fashion, well, I'm just gonna have to do that, right? And I think that's part of the maturation process in any career, but especially when we're talking about cybersecurity, IT, tech, all in general. So yeah, I hope this video helps. I'm starting to think about making these as podcasts, probably stripping the audio and putting them in podcast form, because I'm long-winded, as you can see. I was speaking for almost 40 minutes straight. And I don't think you guys necessarily find that to be the most entertaining, but it's information. This is information that you comment and you ask for, and I just try to deliver the best way I can. I can't help it that some people have short attention spans. So I just, I do the best I can, right? It's a lot of information, and I really do have confidence that anybody that listens or watches my videos all the way through, that they're gonna get something out of it. There's been instances in the past where I've been surprised that people actually are listening and watching my videos all the way through. And I'll just, and they were getting so much from it, right? They got jobs, or even some of the questions that I post. People are like, oh, I was just learning about this in class just now. Wow, this is right on time. And that's why I do this, right? As of right now, I'm not making any money on YouTube, by the way. So I do this to build like I don't want to say I'm not making any money, but the money, people hype YouTube up. Like when we post these videos, we ain't getting bread like that. Like, it's not, I have a whole full-time job, right? I mean, if this was, anyway, my point is, I post this stuff because I know that it's gonna help somebody, and if it helps at least 1, 2 people, it's helped a bunch of people, then I'm with it, right? But I'm gonna start seeing about, I guess, stripping the videos of audio, and then just taking the audio, uploading it to a podcast, so you guys can just listen to it rather than watch my handsome face the whole time while I'm making these videos. But anyway, that's it. So again, just want to reiterate one more time. My perspective is that cybersecurity is a senior level field. It's not an entry level field by any means, in my opinion. I think it's something that you have to consider as a journey. Cybersecurity is a journey. It's not really a field, in my opinion. It's a journey. I just came up with that on the spot. I think it's a journey. You're gonna be, cybersecurity is gonna be with you from the time you set foot in your first role to the time you retire, because it's everybody's responsibility now, even end users. Yes, and that's why we have platforms like Know Before and all these different types of platforms that help you train the end users. Why we have tech committee meetings, why we have staff meetings, all of this stuff. cybersecurity is about education, not just the people that's doing cybersecurity, right? So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.